Hi, I'm Ryan Watkins, and this is the Powederkeg Podcast. Today we're going to be doing another film review, this time looking at the Chargers free agents and the defensive ones and how they fit in with Jesse Minter's defense. So we're going to be looking at three people in particular. So the first person we're going to be looking at is Poona, the defensive tackle, formerly at the Bills and the Seattle Seahawks. We'll get into his player profile, but he's quite a squat, big, wide defensive tackle that plays inside and does a good job at it. He's had a down year last year, so it's now more about how do you revive the player he was just one season ago. We're not looking at digging anything too deep. Second one is a familiar face for Chargers fans, so that's Denzel Perryman, inside linebacker, formerly at the Texans, Raiders, and obviously the LA and San Diego Chargers. Thumper inside. We'll be excited to see some physicality back inside that unit, as well as some experience. And Kristian Fulton, the cornerback, the most recent addition. He was formerly at the Tennessee Titans for all of his rookie contract. He played that out. Came to not a very good ending, but what we're going to be studying is basically what went wrong and what can we hope to see out of him. All three guys are role players, and we'll be looking at their specific roles, both at where they were before and in Michigan's defense. Where would that be reflected? So the first one to look at is Poona. He had a very, very quiet year. In fact, he was healthy inactive for over half the season. It's still not been made public as to why that was. However, when he did play on tape, he showed some good play, some good flashes, and it's a bit of a mystery as to why even his defensive line coach has been quoted as saying it was just a numbers game. I don't know whether they wanted some of the young guys to get more snaps and he was just a safety net. But I still think he's got some juice left in him, and it's going to be interesting to have a look at him. So last year he had 9 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 TFL over those 9 games he played. He played in less than a quarter of the snaps that were available in those games. However, his long-standing career at Seattle for the 5 seasons he was there was outstanding. He had 191 tackles, 8.5 sacks, 29 TFLs, 30 QB hits, and 109 pressures over 84 games, including a fantastic stretch over 3 seasons where he got 86 pressures. And I think it's more about the fit and the system than it was about the player. So let's have a look. So the first thing to just talk about is last season the Bills played almost an exclusively even front. They played quite a static system and allowed their stars to play within that. And Poona served as a role player within that. He was a relief and especially when their interior guy Taquan Jones went down. He stepped in and became that hard end nose tackle. So the primary role he plays is the nose tackle, which is also why it's known as a one tech. That's what the numbers refer to for those not aware, and these are the gaps that they refer to as well. So he lines up as a one tech. He can line over as a 3 tech. He does, I'd say, less than a quarter of his snaps in this role and 3/4 in this role. And he definitely looked more comfortable in there because what his best thing is, he's 5'11", 310 pounds. He uses that leverage fantastically. He anchors in against double teams and just won't give up ground. And he just allows his teammates to get their ISO matchups, whether that's on run fits or pass rushing. So there can be an off-ball linebacker or a looping defensive tackle or a cutting defensive end. We're gonna have a look at where he can provide that role. However, his best work was in an odd front. So this is Seattle. He spent most of his career, he played either defensive end or the defensive tackle role. So defensive end, he'd line up in a 4-eye in an eagle front, or he'd play the role of defensive tackle. And he was absolutely fantastic at crashing downwards, taking across the left guard and the center, so getting across the left guard's face, taking him with him, crashing into the center, making sure neither of them could do anything but to worry about their A gap, and the left guard would inevitably slide over, allowing a defensive tackle to loop around, and what he would do once he crashed there, the left guard would obviously panic and try to get back out. The centre was obviously left in a bad leverage position, that is, he had someone cross his face, and there'd be a pincer effect on the quarterback whenever anything went right. This is a standard bread and butter interior stunt from a 3-4, and he provides the spiker role. This role here, this is mostly as a secondary, so just to take away blockers, but he fought through it very often. So we'll look at some plays from Poona Ford's game films. So the first thing to understand is that, like I said, he's low, squat. He can get down, anchor up, uses low central gravity, and play from low to high. Defensive line coaches will always talk about this. And he's got such strong lower legs that he can anchor in against double teams. He just won't give up ground. It's great to see. And he keeps fighting through blocks. He reads the run concepts very well. He's got active hands and feet. Last season, again, he didn't get a good stretch of playtime, and I think that's a big contributor as to why he didn't show any kind of consistency to his game. If you're being taken off the field, it's hard to build a momentum. Any player will tell you that on at any level. And he lost a little bit of his active hands and feet. He was more just, I'm going to take out blocks and just do my job, rather than how can I get out of this block and how can I keep working across field. But he did show that good short area lateral agility whenever he was asked to. He's also surprisingly fast getting downfield, and he's also able to disengage from blocks, which is a skill that not a lot of defensive linemen have. A lot of them will get into position and then jam the defensive lineman, push them back, sit in their quarters, and then they're not able to think of a second move, and the running back clips past their shoulder, as they're taught to do. And he's able to definitely disengage from those blocks. So I'm going to take a look at this first play. So he is number 98. He is lined up in the one tech of this even front, and he flows all the way across to the gap, meets him there, and carries on working and drives for a run stuff. But he had to go 20 yards laterally. So if we watch that again, he's here. He crosses the center's face trying to get into this gap, realizes there's no one there, running back bounces out, and he carries on working and drives him into the floor. It's a fantastic rep all around. So through that, he showed us here, he keeps fighting through those blocks. He reads the run concept well because he got to the gap and kept working across because he knows that the running back has to bounce that outside. And he showed that good short area lateral agility. He may not be the most mobile guy, but he has that ability to, step over the bag sideways. The next one we're going to see is looking at how he leverages low to high, anchors in, and has that low center of gravity, just absorb contact. He is here again in the one tech role. Double team, doesn't move, doesn't give up an inch of ground, and fires forward for a fantastic rep. You'll see that from the end zone angle in a second. He's here again. There's no one with anywhere range of him. This is quite a standard run fit, but they're relying on Poya and Dodson over here to fill these gaps, and he manages to give them that time, and he keeps fighting all the way through. It's what you want to see from your run stuffer as a role. And what I personally is that whilst the Chargers have some really interesting talent at those roles, there's no experience there, and in terms of the nose tackle that can anchor in, and we haven't had that since Linval Joseph. And what I like to see is someone who just is willing to be the secondary guy, the not big name. Mina Kimes of the Seahawks fan group, very famous member of the media. She is a huge fan of Peter Ford because he is just so selfless. And he, by all accounts, including the Bills last year, it's not an issue of locker room, because Sean McDermott has said that he's a fantastic locker room guy, and to be a block absorbing nose tackle, you kind of have to be selfless anyway. So the next clip is this, by the way, the game against the Patriots was his last significant game. After that, he just was inactive, and that's because they got people back from injury, and he just fell down the pecking order. So a lot of these clips I always try and go to the most recent, because there's no point showing you film from 2 years ago saying, oh yeah, this is the guy you're getting. That's not the guy you're getting. You're getting the most recent version of that guy. He's not a spring chicken. He's 29, I believe. So he has got a lot of miles on the clock, but then again, I still feel like he's got a lot left in him. So here he shows active hands and feet and impressive chase down speed. So he is in the 3 tech this time. I said he stretches out to this way to be on the strong side of the field. So this time he is intent on going through that gap. He sees it's not there. He disengages with a quick swim and he chases all the way down the field. Fantastic motor and effort. I'm going to play that again for us because I just think it's a great rep. So he's meant to come in here. He sees the back go, Stevenson go to the other side. He instead of just, accepting and just saying, I'm going to stay here for the cutback, he swims over and look at that burst and tackle. It's great stuff. And the last clip that we have on Poona for today is essentially, this time he's in the, back into the nose tech. He keeps fighting and scraping. So that's again absorbing that double team but not accepting it. And that's what we like to see. He disengaged from that. He got chest to chest, but he was still able to get his legs underneath him. So chest up, in, but get his legs planted, didn't give up any ground. And you see this repeatedly. He just takes these blocks on. So there is actually a perfect fit for him in Jesse Minter's defense. Now, Minter has a match front, a hybrid front, whereby he has both an even and odd front. He plays them depending on the personnel on the field, depending on what he wants to do. He varies it almost randomly, and it's it keeps people on their toes. And what they had in Michigan is a guy called Cam Good, number 99. He was the guy who came onto the field when they were looking at an even front, but he also was on in odd fronts as well. But he was a 40% snap guy, 40% of the defensive snap guys. Number 55 was their primary guy. Cam Good was their next. So in that role, Jenkins always stayed on the field, number 94, and that was the defensive line pairing when they had an even front. It was 2 of those 3. So Cam Good is 6'1", 314. So that is 2 inches taller. Although his draft profile says that he's 6 foot. His Michigan profile says he's 6'1". I think we all know what that means. And he's only 4 pounds heavier. He played that rotational role. He absorbed double teams to allow ISO matchups, and he uses his low squat size and big heavy legs that can anchor in to leverage against blockers and also create chaos as a spiker in pass rush. Sounds familiar, right? It's almost like they did their homework and went away and thought who out this free agent class could fill that role for us instead of waiting for the draft. Get some experience in there as well. So as you can see here, number 99, he goes under this block here, takes on the center and gets straight for a pressure straight away. He doesn't wait around. He flies through a gap that he's meant to. You can see here because you've got the run fit, whereby 8's got the outside. They're allowing 25 to fill the B gap from a bit of an off position because they've got a man out here, and therefore it gives 99 license to just shoot under the center and in for a pressure. It's good work. So this time he is aligned in an odd front as the nose. So I feel like as much as Spoonford has played that role, it's been less of his majority role. He played more of the 55 or the 94 role here. So that's a defensive, defensive ends, and he's instead of the nose tackle, defensive tackle. I think he does have the profile to play there, and I would like to see it. So as you can see here, Good steps in, sees motion, times snap, steps across, plays across, keeps flowing across, and he fills that interior gap, meaning the back has to flow out. So I'll pause it when the gap he's meant to fill this gap, and then if not, he's meant to slide across the face of the left guard here. So he sees everything go against him, so he flows over. You see, he crashes into his teammate essentially because he reads this so early, and then he gets across to this gap here, fills that role. So now the back cannot go here, even though he's going to get double teamed. And if 17 filled this more aggressively, as the end does, he had a pass coverage role, but he's got to make that run pass read a little bit quicker. If he steps down, and then that allows the linebacker to step down, then you've got a good run fit. But this he got sealed here, meaning this was a big play. You've always got to look beyond, like, the big plays, the finish plays, where they end up with a sack or a big tackle for loss or something like that. You've got to understand what their role is within the defense, and if they did it well, that's going to be what they get drafted for. That's going to be what's going to get the Chargers wins every week. So if we go through a summary of Poona, our first guy, so he's 29. He has had no major injuries, and astoundingly, he's only missed one game for injury in 6 seasons. He's had plenty of minor niggles that he's worked through. He does have a strapped up shoulder, but it's not hindered him so far. He hasn't missed a game because of it, and he's just always available. So the contract he's looking at is, we're estimating this, but essentially it was reported as vet minimum, so it's 1 year, $915K. It's almost not, expendable money. You could even cut him in camp and it'll be absolutely no problem. However, I don't think that's what their intention with him. He is going to be the backup run focused lineman who can take on double teams, absorb blocks in the run game, allow the linebackers or safeties even to fill, give them time, and he can also create a really nice spike effect on stunts to flow inside, allow our elite pass rushers, now that we've retained Mac and Bosa, and we've still got Thule in the door. It's just an outstanding opportunity just to think, okay, we've got one position sorted, we've got our pass rush that's elite. Showed that on a really bad defense last year. The pass rush is still absolutely elite. So he's going to allow them to win their ISO matchups, and I just think it's a great outstanding with a lot of upside. So it's a cheap signing. That's a positive. So we're looking at a cheap signing. Experience in multiple roles and multiple systems. He's always available, so he's going to be on that depth chart. Whether the guys around him want him there or not, he'll be there. Nothing's going to move him, and he has 3 down upside because he does have a history of being a good pass rusher. Didn't show it in the Bills last season, but in Seattle he was there. I mean, how do you go over 100 pressures in a 6-year career without being a good pass rusher? He has that little burst. He can get through a gap and go and keep pursuing upfield. And he's got surprising speed too. Now, the negative is we still don't know why he didn't play the second half of the season and barely played in the first half of the season, even with all the injuries they had. It doesn't seem like it's a big negative, as in there's a big red flag outstanding on him. The Chargers always do their homework on those guys like that, so they wouldn't take a punt on someone unless they knew what that was. And but the other negative is as a solo guy, in terms of, is he going to penetrate? Is he going to create that interior pressure on his own? Most likely no. He's a team player, and overall his mobility issues, he's got huge heavy legs. He's not going to be chasing down sideline to sideline. We've shown that he can flow with the gaps. That's good, and he can cut off back, and he's also a strong pursuit guy. Same as Cam Goode was in Michigan. See more and more alignment between the two, and just if we look at it in general, I don't know why he didn't play more, but because his tape was positive. I've put on 3 games of his, and from the snaps he was on, there's no reason he should have been taken off the field. He didn't miss assignments. He didn't make any explosive plays on his own, but he didn't didn't do anything wrong either. So I think it's more about the other guys that they had. So I think it's a worthy gamble overall. So the next one we're going to be looking at is Denzel Perryman. He was at the Chargers for many years, both San Diego and LA, before moving to the Raiders, Texans last year, and now he's back in Southern California. So last year he had 76 tackles, half sack, 10 and a half run stuffs, 3 pass defended over 12 games. He had some injury problems, which we'll go into. Hence why 76 tackles for an inside linebacker is pretty low, especially as he was their starter when he was available. But if you look at his career as a whole, he had 662 tackles, 6.5 sacks, 55 run stuffs, 9 turnovers and 14 pass defended. Over a wealth of games, over 100 games that he's had under his feet so far. So Denzel Perryman is he's that hammer, prototypical inside linebacker that in days of old, like, these were the stars, and essentially what his job is, I'm gonna fill the other A gap. We have in an even front, you have your one tech fill one, he fills the other, or his one tech fills there, he steps down to the B gap. He always prefers the A gap, but he can play either that Mike or Sam. Mike is middle, Sam is strong, sided linebacker in an even front. Because of this role, because he's either filling inside or playing within the hashes, within the tackles even, his matchup is usually with the quarterback or the running back. So that's his other role within this, in a pass defense as well. So as you can see here, he fill the B gap with a pretty simple run fit. Everyone just lines up and hits their gap as the traditional 4-3 defense does. But his best work, so he was a Pro Bowler once, which was under when Patrick Graham came across the New York Giants to the Las Vegas Raiders. He played the Mike role in the odd front there, so the particular Eagle front. And he ended up with 154 tackles, finished top 6 in total tackles and 3rd in solo stops. And I think this is where he suits it better. Here, we'll go into the Texans film from last year, but I feel like that year was his best year. It might have been just, where he reached his physical peak. But it's good to see that he has been able to play in both systems. That's going to be important for the Chargers when they get into Jesse Minter's hybrid fronts. Everything is to match, everything is to answer, everything is to attack, like solve your problems with aggression. So in this Eagle front, his job is to play 2 roles. So the first is that he is going to be lined up in a 20 roughly alignment. So for those who haven't come across linebacker alignments before, you've got the numbers here for the defensive lineman. Anytime you're trying to work out where the linebacker's aligning, you just add a 0 at the end of it. So that would be 20, 30, 00, 50. So he is lined up in directly over the guard here, trying to play 2-directional. And he's playing from a 20, so he fills the A gap from this role. Or if the line flows, then he flows, and he flows over the top and attacks down the alley, the apex lane. Perryman is good in this role because he has the ability to read early but still play patient. And that's something you'll see on his film. He sees it, but then he'll wait for something to develop, wait for a puller, wait for something else. He'll even direct traffic, which is a really good asset of his as an experienced linebacker. And it means that he can fit the run without overcommitting. So he played last season under Matt Burt, the defensive coordinator for the Houston Texans, and it was a bit of a shame for me because he was only limited to playing early downs. They kind of took him off the field when they knew, okay, it's definitely a passing down here, so 3rd and long, or 2-minute drills or something like that. He didn't stay on the field because they asked their linebackers to do a lot of blitzing. You've got Christian Harris next to them, and he stayed on the field, especially in their lighter looks when they had one linebacker on the field in their dime looks. Christian Harris is younger, faster, more aggressive, and can blitz. Whereas Perryman, it speaks for itself that he had half a sack last season and under 10 sacks in his career, which is surprising because I seem to remember him getting some nice work in the backfield, but it's probably those TFLs on those run stuffs. And so he is playing here in the micro of this even front. He plays patient, he watches the pullers, and he hits the hammer and he comes downhill hard. When he comes downhill, there's no second guessing, there's no waiting. So he stays here. He sees the initial run develop, he waits for the pullers to clear, and he comes and he executes. And that timing is only something that comes with experience. You're not going to be able to get that on your first day in the position because most people would over pursue that, and then there'll be a cutback lane. So if he did just hammer down straight away, as soon as he'd see that, he'd hammer down here, and then number 79 would crash him out, and then there'd be a run alley where in behind his hips. So his biggest weakness has always been his pass coverage. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why the Chargers moved on with him from him in the first place. Is whilst he provided a nice bit of physicality in the middle, Gus Bradley wanted people to play, in zones, in space, and it's taken a while for him. Like, linebackers always peak so much later than any other position because they're just so much to process. It's always been a position that I've really valued, because they have to see both sides of the coin in defense. They have to see run and pass just as well. It's not anymore that you take a reach step forward, then you panic and get back out to a pass alignment. He has become a better zone coverer, and he has a bit more mobility going back there now. He's worked on his back pedal quite clearly. So you'll see here that he is in this role here. So he's in the mic again. He flows over, stays with his man, comes back over, and pursues all the way to take on the quarterback here, which is Lamar Jackson, which is no mean feat. But it's the way that he keeps his feet active. He keeps working over the top. He drifts into the space well. So he's calling out pass protection. He lines over, keeps inside, side shuffles, and then sprints, forces Lamar Jackson to go out of bounds, protect himself. So that overall was a really good coverage rep, because he did a bit of everything. So his fit essentially is going to be Michael Barrett's number 23 for the Michigan defense. He's actually a senior. I'll be really interested to see if they draft him. Basically, guys in the same role, one experienced, one young. See what they can do in terms of working a relationship together. And they are essentially the same size. Perriman is 5'11", 240. He is 6 foot 239. And what he's going to bring to that role, though, is a little bit extra, is that experience communicator, directing the guys around him. Because whilst we have Nick Neiman in the linebacker room, that's not someone that has a lot of playing experience. He has his experience being on the team, special teams especially, but he's not got to that point in his career where he's going to be directing the overall picture. Perriman could even wear the green dot, as long as he's familiar with the verbiage. So as well, how he fits in terms of Michael Barrett. But Michael Barrett came off the field in Lightbox personnel. They preferred Junior Colson to be on the field, especially in their penny fronts. But he played both Mike and Sam in even fronts, or Mike and Will in off fronts. Played that A gap, took on blockers, matched up with the running back. It's very familiar, and you're starting to see a pattern. They're not pulling these guys together randomly. They've all got a purpose. So on this one, number 23, he gets driven back at the end by number 72, decides to take a cheap shot. But yeah, so he sees that, he directs. Now, I want to play this again to make sure that it's understood just how good this is. So when he steps down to this, you'll see his arm wave, and he waves number 25 over to follow the blocker. Someone's got to follow the pulling blocker, so he's telling him, follow him. I'm going to fill this role. So he says, okay, so because it could look like he could wait for the big gap to open. And they're trying to slide across, maybe get this one open, but he sees, his teammate here. He's like, I'm going to wait for him to penetrate. He's penetrating up here, but he's got a double team, so he knows I'm going to attack into this double team, go in between them, and he stuffs that run. That's a good inside linebacker play, because he's waiting, playing patiently, but still hitting that hole and not letting up any ground. So the next play, so he plays the role of, I'm going to match with the running back on this one, and it's a really important rep. So in this front, he is in the even front. He's playing the Sam role in this one. So he's going to flow with the running back that he's lined up to. So they're going to motion tight end across. Then they're going to send this guy here, arrow pass, but he is just pursuing. He's got there before anyone. He's got there really quickly to just flow and over for no gain, despite the amount of space that he had. And so he's going to be his role overall. He's going to be both the hammer, and also he's going to match with the running back, stay with him. He's not someone who's going to be lined up opposite tight ends and do a great job. Like I said, he can play zone. He can be that zone eyes in between the hashes. I think he could probably do it better than Kenneth Murray did last season. He's not up to Kendrick's level, but he is going to be the other one, the other role in the linebacker. It's always a tandem, always a duo. Now he is 31. It's not too old. It's not too young. He's probably past his absolute peak. But the bigger concern is he's had a lot of minor injuries that come with the territory of the role. But he overall he hasn't missed more than 2 games in a row since his LCL tear, but he's also not played more than 12 games in a season for 3 seasons now. I think it was 11, 12 and 12. So he will give up snaps to his backups. Now, obviously, you've got Diane Henley in the room, and Minter requires a ton of linebackers to operate in his system. He's obviously going to tweak his system that he did in Michigan. It's not a carbon copy, but what we will be looking at is essentially a lot of bodies going to be put into camp at the very least. See who can fill that role, because it's not always just like, oh yes, put them all on the first 2 days of the draft, especially in this class. It's not the best class. So his contract is 1 year, $3 million, cheap, affordable, temporary, and that 1 year, that's always key. It's giving guys over to the future, seeing what he's got left in the tank. So it's a cheap signing in a position of need. Experience in a hybrid front. So Patrick Graham had a really nice quote. He said, "Whatever you ask me, if you ask me I'm a 3-4, I am a 3-4. If you ask me I'm a 4-4, I'm a 4-4. If you ask me I'm a 4-3, I'm a 4-3." Because he played everything, and that's his philosophy. It still is. And that's something that Minter strongly, abides by. He is on a stereo from Patrick Graham that might have come from the same familiar coaching tree. However, he plays that as well. He's going to be, I'm going to play what I want to play, as we looked at last week. So he also provides that physicality. Perryman. We remember his hits. We've seen them on the other side. I think he had a really nasty hit on Eckler a couple of years ago in Las Vegas, and he just hammered him, knocked the ball out, and it's going to be something that we're going to see it again. He's going to come downhill. He's not fluid enough though to play anywhere outside the hashes and passing down. So but Minter's role protects the hashes. He has safeties there. He has specific nickel roles. He doesn't really rely on a linebacker to just buzz out there and just take on whatever kind of slot there is. The modern offenses are too complicated for that, and they have too much speed and juice in that area. So he's going to be protected within the system, but it means that he shouldn't be on the field in lighter looks. So 5-1 penny, or even the odd fronts where he's asking his linebackers to step down on blitz. He's not that guy either. He's not a good blitzer. He would just sort of drive at a shoulder. He's got no moves, but he can occupy blocks when necessary. So it means he can do that matching. He can step forward, step off the line, sugar sim, as Minter likes to do, but he's not going to be correcting splash plays on his own from that position. He's slowing down after his freshman years, there's no doubt about that, but he's still got the speed to be a good part of this defense, especially in the beginning when you just need that experience on the field. And as I've said, he missed a consistent amount of games every year, so he might be slowing down, he might be not on the field all the time, but when he is on the field, I think we all know what he's going to give us, and that's important. Now, the last one, Kristian Fulton. So he is a cornerback. So from the Tennessee Titans, he spent all of his rookie contract there, so all 4 years. And last year he had 46 tackles, a sack, 1.5 run stuff, 5 passes defenders over 11 games. Now 11 games, he had an injury, which we'll talk about, and also he was benched at one point of the season as well. Sent a message, and between the injuries and the benching, it means that he wasn't on the field too much. However, when he was on the field for the rest of his career, he's got a lot more tackles, 150, a sack, 2.5 run stuffs, 5 turnovers, and 25 passes defended. And he's played 41 games in the NFL. That's a corner who's played 41 games in the NFL, and is still desirable enough to be a free agent, to still be sought after in the early part of the free agency period. It is no mean feat. Fulton spent his whole career in Mike Vrabel's quarters heavy coverage scheme. Vrabel ran it 24% of the time, which is very high for the NFL. In fact, 9% above the league average. Now, you've got some dinosaurs in the league who aren't going to really play anything this complicated. He's not going to trust his players that much. However, even like the top guys weren't that far ahead of what Vrabel used. Now, Fulton played the right cornerback, or left as we're looking at it, but a right cornerback position, and he never left there. He only came inside the hashes if he was asked to play against a very tight formation. So that's like a tight end and no receivers on this side, and on the odd occasion where he was matched up with the only wide receiver on this side, And then there was a fullback or running back out here, and they put a safety or a linebacker down on him to stay true. So coming out of LSU, the fit was always a strange one for everyone that remembers him being drafted in the second round, because he was a press heavy, down low guy, just shy of 6 foot. He played in the SEC, so he was tasked with going up some really tough receivers, some really tough guys, and he was then tasked to go into a zone quarter system. But I think what they look for is the fact that, despite being slightly undersized to play that outside corner role, he played with an assertiveness and aggressiveness, and I think Vrabel really identified with that. So the quarters coverage, though, that they played, just because I think it's important to go over this, is you have a box to the strong side. It's usually meant against 3-1-1 formations. However, these days, it can work against any of them. A box to the strong side where you've got 3 receivers, and a triangle to the weak side. Now, essentially, anything that comes in the front of the weak side, that's going to be this apex players that are sometimes a linebacker, sometimes it's a dime safety, and then anything goes over the top of this zone is going to be the responsibility of the weak side safety, and anything that goes on the outside is going to be the responsibility of the corner. And now on the strong side, you've got one more man to deal with this, so you become essentially create a box. So there are no weak spots. You've got the underneath, which goes to the apex, the inside underneath, which goes to the linebacker, the on top that goes to the safety, and the on top and outside. So you've got quarter, half. So the field here is split into quarters. So you've got the strong side quarter. Anything deep and inside this is the responsibility of the corner. Anything deep and inside this is within the safety's role. And so there is a bit of a difference with the quarters rules in terms of the pattern match, because this is a zone quarters system, same as Jesse Minter's. Again, seeing where their thinking is coming from. They're looking for people who are experienced in how the reads are going to be made. They don't want someone who's got the potential to make those reads. They want someone who is going to make the same reads. Now, as we saw with Staley's pattern match, essentially, in a pattern match, so the corner is going to be reading all 3 receivers. So he's going to be reading 2 through 1 to 3, and he's going to be staying with number 1 as long as he goes vertical until number 2 breaks out. Then he's going to attack down and leave number 1 to be taken up by here. But that creates a whole shot there, and that's not including the case number 3 goes deep as well. In that case, the weak side safety has to roll over, and the quarters become muddied by the pattern match rules. Now, Jesse Minter and Vrabel both like to play true zone rules. So this is his area, 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 and this channel is his alone. So what that means is essentially we're going to be seeing quicker trigger from all of the defense, and it means that the fits can be true to what the concept is. So quarter half or quarters was created essentially to create 2-on-1s. So against this offensive concept, you're looking at a vertical threat attacking here. Then you've got a number 2 trying to drag out of this safety out of the way and create a window on this post, and then alternatively you're trying to create conflict here. And then lastly, as the last option, on the strong side, you've got the number 3, the tight end, that's going to be attacking down here, trying to keep this defender under and create a window here. So this is a concept that is actually designed to attack quarters. That's why I chose it to have a look at, so you can understand how the offense is trying to make this play work and how the defense respond to it. And the last is always the wheel, which is meant to, if this corner decides to drag in, then this linebacker's got a long way to turn and go upfield, and the quarterback can go over the top to the sideline. You see this quite a lot, especially in pattern match rules, because he would go there. That's the rules. How the quarter system looks to answer it is essentially everyone's got to respond initially and then readjust. So the corner here has got quite a simple job. His job is to squeeze the post. Now, playing with this, it might look easy when you're looking at diagrams, but it is very difficult to actually do. So the corner has to play from an outside leverage and attack here. Now the quarterback could just drop this ball anywhere under here. Yeah, he has to play through the man and come over that. Now Fulton has shown that he's usually in the right position. He is rarely caught out of position whenever he's asked to perform any coverage, whether that's man or whether that's zone or even pattern match, which he has shown a bit of. But the issue is that playing through the man has been his downfall. So essentially, when you if I go back to the actual concept of quarters, then you're looking at essentially that you're looking to create double teams everywhere. So the safety on this one, he steps down when he realizes this has come across, but then he passes it off to his linebacker and he gets up to double team the post route. They squeeze upwards to make this throw a lot more difficult because the quarterback can't then put it underneath this zone. For his number one receiver to come and get it, he has to respect it, and if he's going to play it true, he's got to hit a deep hole through this, and that's where the corner can come back and get over to it. And the other double team, so you're looking at this safety here, so he would go back when he sees nothing deep threatening his area. He would hammer down on this, and you've also got a really tight window because this linebacker's in between two routes here. So you've got double team here, you want a triple team, double team up here, and you got the where the offense would look to target is working these routes, but these are the two latest development, number 3 and number 2 on this side. So strong side 3, weak side 2. Those are long developing, and it means that you're giving your pass rush a chance to get home. So Fulton's understanding of this quarters has developed quite a lot, considering the amount of snaps he's had in the system. So he is the corner down on this side, so he sees this and he stays with the top route. Now in a pattern match system, he would have been tasked with taking Drake London, who's running the out route. But what he does is he identifies the threat early, he stays over the top of it, and he flows with it, and that's exactly the concept we've just looked at. So the underneath player is starting to get depth. In this one, this player, so the safety and the linebacker and the safety have switched roles. He's gaining depth. He's trying to get underneath this throw because of the route pattern combination is different, and the safety here is going to be flowing down into this pocket, the hook curl so the box becomes slightly reversed. So instead of this guy being down here, this guy being up here and creating a box there, he goes down and creates the box in a very weird shape. There's not a box there. But Fulton's job is important because he has to squeeze from his outside against an interior guy who, he's fast in pits. And the nearest help he's got is over here, so he has to be over the top. So he does that, and there's no angle to throw, The quarterback, he might not be a great quarterback in Ritter. He's already been replaced, but like he is, there isn't a window where he can throw that into. So Fulton has that understanding of coverages, but what he doesn't have is naturally the timing down of how to react to route exchanges. Well, we'll see here on this play that Fulton has the understanding of where to be and what he is meant to do, but it's the element of confidence that he trusts his feet enough to be able to drive on the ball and not give up the defense. He stays high and doesn't like to attack into certain areas, and some coaches really want to cover that because that's something that Staley, for example, would have loved if he was a bit better in pattern match. Then Staley would have probably tried to acquire him because he stays high. He doesn't try to attack those outside channels in anything underneath until he absolutely has to. So you'll see here on this play that he stays high for as long as he can, then tries to speed turn out of it and get to it. However, this is the wrong read. So we'll look at this in a second. So essentially, when he sees the route exchange, so at this point, so the number one, his man, has gone high. He's attacking here, but he's stemming into his safety. Now here, he's got his eyes. You can see his helmet looking straight at the quarterback, and you can see straight through the receiver to the quarterback. So therefore, he should be bailing out of this, opening back up to the sideline in a zone turn. And what he does do is he carries on high and then tries to loop back around in what we call a speed turn, or a baseball turn, which is a man turn. However, it can get you back into position quite well. However, he does this pretty slowly, and he ends up missing the catch point completely, and allowing the receiver to get his feet down, Kristian Fulton to get his feet down. Which also shows another side of his game that I think is just as something that can be coached and can be helped, is just his physicality. He's not a light player, but my problem is that he gets to these positions. Like this play would be great. He is on this side here. He's playing the outside corner role. He's playing contain. He sees London Flyer, so he comes downhill, hits him hard. But unless there was a secondary help there, then that hit wouldn't have been complete, because he got to the point of contact. He met in there. He used not the best technique with not much power behind it, and he got sat down. So it's a matter of how can we, if the Chargers coaching staff, lift him to be a guy who can be serviceable. Now, the big story that I mentioned about Fulton last season is that he got benched. In week 11, he essentially gave up 6 catches for well over 100 yards in 3 quarters against the Jags, who didn't exactly have a lot of success passing the ball last season. And that plus the injuries have knocked his confidence to the point where he's not firing on the ball anymore. Early, and he was seen as quite an up and coming. I've read articles, in major publications that said that in 2 seasons ago he might be the next best zone corner. So it's quite surprising that he just hasn't been able to carry that on, and there are reasons why, which we will talk about in a second. That physicality extends to the passing game as well. So this one, he's down here. He's going to be playing the cover 2 flat. So he steps in here. You can see the standard cover 2 shell, too high, far underneath, and he sees the route break off, and he meets it. But he's got his arm outside on top in a good position. He's got his downfield arm underneath on the right hand side, so he can secure the tackle. He doesn't either. London gets out of that. It's only because he gets a teammate. Otherwise, he was firing out of that. And Fulton, didn't get the ball, didn't get the man, didn't either. So it's, again, so close. Everything's so close. It's always close, but not quite with Fulton. And it's something that I think the Chargers are trying to take a stab at. So think about, how do you progress in the league where you didn't have a lot of cap room to begin with, and maybe you want to save that for future years, is you find guys that can fill that role. Now, what Fulton is able to do mirrors what Josh Wallace is able to do in Michigan's defense. Now, Josh Wallace is probably a better version within Michigan's defense than Fulton was in the Titans' defense. However, they're the same size, so again, 1 inch more taller. Again, that's Michigan's measurements, so they're probably the same height. And he is 7 pounds lighter than Fulton. He probably plays with a bit more physicality. However, again, this is the key role for me. They keep him in a weak side corner away from the number 1 receivers. Now, they did this for Marvin Harrison Jr. There's not many other, and they did this for Rome Odunze. There weren't many other receivers that they went against that had true number 1s. So he played the right side in that defense. He doesn't play field and boundary. There's a lot of Fangio disciples roll out these days. But Minter decided to try and keep number 2 on Marvin Harrison and move Josh Wallace away. Now, this could be a way to get Fulton's confidence up, is to keep him away and keep him onto the side of the field where there's a bit more help, and it might end up paying off. Now, the one part I do like about Fulton's game is how he plays the trap 2, the flat 2, and it could be something that comes out because Minza has a very different type of scheme whereby the apex channels are protected, like we've talked about. You've got a guy here, you've got a guy here. That means your apexes are protected. So, you know, when you are playing the flat, you're playing the flat. You're not trying to play it from all the way out here to all the way in here and like attack inwards and then get caught, whether you're going to bubble out or go in. He just has to play that underneath zone, and like, but making those zones a bit smaller for him means that, you know, he can fire off on the ball a little bit, you know, with a little bit more assertiveness, and knowing he's got that safety over the top help, or he can play that deep quarter, which he has played, you know, significant snaps at doing. Now Wallace, on this one, shows how you should play a route exchange. So he sees the route go in, he plays that, and he gets to a position whereby the quarterback can't throw that into position he wants, and has to throw outside and shallow. He has to rush the throw. You can see he wasn't under too much pressure. He's got time. He still snatches at this because he sees him coming downhill, and he thinks, I've got to turn my shoulder, pull this under, give my receiver a chance. So it would be good to see, you know, this type of DB coaching from Michigan. We're getting a lot of like transition over from the whole defense, and just got the biggest coaching staff ever. So there's going to be a lot of guys who can focus on Fulton and try and get the best out of him. Again, you look at Josh Wallace this time in a run defense. He's down here at the bottom here. He peels off and he comes down, and he finishes. You know, he finishes the tackle. He gets a bit of help from his flowing linebacker, but it means that we can play him down low. You can keep him on the outside, and you can get him into positions where he is able to affect. He's got a fair few tackles for loss for someone of his stature. So it's going to be interesting to see how he can develop in a system that fits him better, in my opinion, but also one that, you know, that has the coaching staff that can give him the time. So he's still young. He's 25. He's just finished his rookie contract. He came out of the draft class, at the right age. However, he has missed 26 games over 4 years, which is, and only a couple of them were season-ending injuries. Like in terms of they didn't happen at the beginning of the season. He didn't miss a whole season at any one point. He's just missed consistent amount of games. He has had hamstring issues in both legs. Now he says that as a positive, like, oh, it's not just one leg that's going. It's both of them, and it means that he's not been able to be consistently on the field. He's had a lot of injuries. If you have to scroll down his injury list, despite him only playing 4 years. His contract is unknown. However, I think at this point in the free agency period, I don't think he's going to be taking much. And if he's going to be taking anything, it's going to be a 2-year max in terms of length. Now he is a potential starting weak side corner right now. I say potential. I hope he isn't starting. This is a guy I hope is going to be a backup and a role player with upside. Now I say potential because we don't have anyone. We're Santos Samuel Jr., who I'm not the biggest fan of, and we've got Dean Leonard, and then we've got Jesse Taylor, and that is it. So it's another position that needs heavy investment, and the fact that they haven't gone after anyone before Fulton means that I feel like they're going to go after a couple in this draft class at least. And in that weak side corner role, he can play that trap, and he also, like, you know, he can play underneath, and Minter loves to roll that tamper to look out as a change up, especially on third downs. With 3 safeties on the field, he can focus on that underneath area and attack it. But also in general coverage, he's going to be able to be in position long enough to give the pass rush time to get home. And that's what, you know, as a DB coach, what I teach my players is that's your primary job. People think it's to cover a receiver, shut them down. It's not. It's to give you time in your pass rush to get home. So in this system, that can be something he does because, like I said, he's rarely caught out of position. He's a son of depth, in my opinion. He's got experience in quarter system, can even teach it to the younger guys. He's still young. He can play man or zone. Like I said, he played a lot of press man at LSU, and it's something that I feel like he can do again. He is, however, a huge injury risk. I really don't feel like he's going to play a complete season at this point. He was also benched in this season for poor play. I've watched that game back, and I still feel like a lot of those plays were not his fault. You got your your linebackers biting on play action. You got your safeties playing too far inside for a proper quarters safety. I'm not saying he's completely blameless, because he's definitely not. Showed the play where he definitely was at fault. But all of the benching and the injuries have mean he's low confidence, and you can see that. So, but in general, the biggest downside I have with his game is timing issues. He doesn't play off man very well at all. But I'm quite happy with that, because Minza doesn't play a ton of it either. So he sees the game well, and we've all seen what Ben Herbert can do with Michigan. He makes them all tough, he makes them all strong, and people can't stop talking about him. If he grabs hold of this guy and turns him into a guy who's got a few more games this season, but also finishes plays, then I think it's a good acquisition overall. So that concludes our look at the Chargers defensive additions of free agency so far. We also had Troy Dye added. However, he's going to be primarily a special teams player for Ryan Ficken. And we'll be looking at offensive next. So thank you very much for watching the Powederkeg Podcast, and have a good day.